Okay, part two. Basically, what we've learned in part one is the nature of how we are going to combine video cards like these together in sequence on a Windows 10 or a Linux platform environment, and how we are able to get the proper airflow in the design of the rack enclosure so that we can accomplish what we want. You always, by the way, want to have a backup fan. So stand by for just a second while we go to the case. So here we are at the case. As you can see, it has evolved. I used a lower RPM ratio silence fan, which is a real good fan sequence for like open test beds like you can see down here on the floor. They move quite a bit of air through, but they don't get as loud as and obnoxious as some of the industrial fans that people want to use. And then here you see another set of the same fan strategies doing their work. So when you're done and you've got your environment set up, you've got principally your test video card, which if you don't have more than what you need port-wise for a total of 8 or plus, then you can put one on the actual PCIe slot. And then down here you can see clearly the 4-port USB port, and of course a standalone one here as well, because I'm not going to do a full bay yet. But to do a full bay, I just remove this guy right here, take him out, and put another one of these 4 bays in, and then I'm up to 4 video cards. Again, you need a high-end power supply to accomplish that, but for now, this is just the test bed itself. And as you can see, these are very cleanly put in each other, and that they're prepared to do what they're supposed to do. And we basically are staging them in a clean format so that they are precisely what we need them to be, and that is evenly distributed, and of course how we are going to set. Now this is the baseline board. Now the bad news about these boards, these work really well. They really do. And I'll put a link in my video about what they are. But they've got a foam pad on the bottom for proper insulation and so on. If you're trying to get your hands on one of these, which are a 4-bay bus with a single USB output, they don't work well. They really don't. Sorry about the crookedness. The reason why they don't work well, as I'm determining, is that they have an issue chipset-wise with USB interface buses. So even though it has a single USB bus here, it really has a heartburn. It really does. Now I may try to use it on the quad board just to see if the quad board will support it or not. But depending on the age of your motherboard will really dictate if these quad boards will work. Then this is a quad board PCIe to a USB quad board. We do know that the single mode output such as this and what comes with it do not work. This is what it looks like if it was coming with the quad board. So this is what ships with this board. This pass-through does not work well. So just a heads up to that. Newer boards might do a little bit better. But if you got an old motherboard you're using for this project, then respect the nature of your board. I'm going to put us on pause here for a second while I stage this setup, and stand by. Okay, so as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and attempt to put the quad board on, connecting the PCIe based quad board up to the actual quad board motherboard USB card. I expected it will come up as basically and functionally as dead. Now the reason why I say that is because if you flip this guy over, that unlike the classic single PCIe base interface, there's a piece of foam underneath it. There is no foam here. So that means you have to be very careful when you baseline it into the bay of the unit. As you can see, I'm using wood. So for now, I'm going to use basic insulation plastic, which is static resistant, which is very good for this kind of roll, to use it as kind of a temporary staging area for this board. But I don't expect this board to work, so that's just a quick heads up on that. I'm also going to use a smaller form factor because, frankly, these monsters can get stupidly ridiculous, if you know what I mean. But anyways, so stand by for a second while I stage this. And again, I don't expect it to post. I expect these 3 to post, and this one for 4 cards total, but I don't think I'll see the 5th card on this board. So stand by. Okay. Now while I'm doing this and I'm staging that quad board, I wanted to show you this little guy. He's basically 6 connections off of a standard Molex interface. And he's really great because the 3 bottom ones that face on the left side can be for all the stuff on the bottom, while you can use the 3 on the top to act as a power for your splices. Now, what is a splice? Well, this is a splice, where you have a standard Molex interface, which in this case is right here, plugs on, and it will give you some additional connectors of the same class interface. You'll see them all throughout the system, like here's one right here. They go to a single Molex here, out to 2 Molexes here. So I wanted to show you this stuff. These things run about $2 each on average, maybe $3 if you want to get a little bit of quality. But the most important thing about using these is to make sure these heads connect well and that these wires don't pop out. That happens. So it's always important to double check everything. So for now, I'm going to put this big bad boy in. He's going to go down here, and he's going to provide all the power output for the right side of the chassis if you're looking from the back, or the left side of the chassis if you're looking from the front. And that will leave these guys alone because they're finished. So stand by. Okay, so now you see we've got the anchoring points in place. We've got 2 video cards here on the quad board. I don't expect it to be very successful. Remember, you see this little guy right here on the back of your PCI slot? You want to be able to lock your units in because this board is freestanding, and that helps keeps it stable. Now, as you noticed here, I have those specialized connections set up now, and I'm using my lead cable. And as you noticed, I went from the end to the middle. Guys, this doesn't have to be pretty. It has to be functional. And, you know, a nice airflow for things to go through and dissipate heat. That's your mission statement right there. With that being said, we're going to power this unit up here in a second. And it may not power on. It may power on just fine. I don't know yet. But stand by here a second while I put the lid on so we get proper airflow. Okay, so we have proper airflow now. The lid is on. This is your test phase. You want to test phase with your video cards in stages. Don't put any more than 2 extras in at a time so you can troubleshoot them correctly. And at that point in stage, you can initiate boot process. As you can see in the back here, we've got LEDs and so on. Now we're just going to see if this bad boy is even going to post. Good chance it will not post. And the principal reason why is because of that quad board. If I disconnect it, I'll bet you $10 it works just great. Yep, I got light inside. Ah, but the fan's not moving. So it died. So I'll have to do another check here and see what's happening. But I bet you $10 it's that quad board connection. Yep, that's quad board connection. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the lid off here. Terminate the power on the power supply. Proper step to do. Locate the quad board input, which is this guy right here. Pull him out. Just let him set out here on the side. Return your power and attempt to boot. All right, so we're still seeing some diagnostic problems. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video here again, and I'm going to remove these cards, but I'm going to flip them over to single edge cards. Okay, so we've got the cards in, and the outer loops, these cards are testing great. There are some issues with these cards, and I suspect the problem is that one of these splice sets here are not connecting correctly, or they're not complete. So one of these 3 cards are kind of pseudo crashing sort. So the easy way to figure that out is down here you have your PCIe only outputs for power selections. That means for your Molex connectors and all of that. So by unplugging just this one and testing the power to see if it comes up and the power spins and the CPU fan begins to spin, then I know that that Molex connector is good. I found that this one is not working correctly, so I need to pull it out and figure out what's going on with it. These are the easiest ways to troubleshoot these kind of setups, by checking to make sure that these connectors are firmly connected. And when you look at how much you're dealing with, it's easy to lose track. So I have to do the same thing just like anybody else. So I'll quickly troubleshoot this. But the good news is it does post. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 cards in here, which are the safe numbers for Windows 10. Okay, so as you can see, I found my problem. That's not very pretty, is it? No, it's going in the trash now. But this was causing a short in the actual power feed out right down here, which isn't good. So I'll bring everything back in nice and clean and make sure that it works. So back to what we were doing. Okay, so now we've got the cards in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So we've got our USB cables here. We'll do cable cleanup in a bit. But basically we've got this set up now. Now notice that I put stabilizers screws in. They're better than the traditional PC screws because they actually flatten out like a washer on these units, keeping them very stable because they're kind of floating. The baseboards that we're using here basically have to float. And so between this little slide lock to keep the board properly connected to the video card and these stabilizer screws, you're going to find that your system is really nice and stable. So stand by here for a second while I finish this up and we'll do a post. Alright, so we're at the last stage of part 2 here, and what we're going to do on part 2 is we are going to go ahead and bring the power up and let it post, and we know it posts good. So because it does the baseline post, we can then begin the process of working with the OS system. And there it is. So for this, I'm going to go ahead and add a part 3 to this equation. This is where we're going to go through the process of detecting and so on and so on. This will help you with Windows 10, and I'll give you a couple of suggestions for Linux. For the end of part 2, that's it. Thank you.